Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Secrets of the Viz. Today we have a very special guest, Josh, who is here to share with us how he created the Viz on Best Picture Academy Awards for Data Plus movies. So over to you, Josh.
Hey, Lewis. Thanks for inviting me to the show. I'm not sure how special of a guest I really am. I just happen to have been using Tableau Public for 9 years and learned a lot along the way to be less afraid of the feature set of Tableau Public. As you know, y'all's community project, GamesNightViz, kind of connects me and allows me to explore data stories. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here to talk about one of the visualizations that I did and hopefully pay it forward, share a little bit about my creative process.
Awesome. Yeah, let's get started. Maybe you want to share your screen and then we can talk through on how you came about the design and the inspiration behind it.
Thanks for starting there, Lewis. That's an easy question. What was my inspiration? Why did I decide to go the route I did? All right, here we go. This is my Tableau Public page, and here's the Best Picture Academy Awards. So the story, what it came down to was me wanting to be motivated to watch this year's Best Pictures. And what better way to get motivated to watch than to visualize the past few years. So I settled on the past 20 years. And what guided my decision was to have something that would grab people's attention, not just a boring bar chart, even though we know standard charts, they're standard for a reason, right? They're informative. They are easy to interpret in a couple of seconds. But I decided I wanted something attention grabbing. So I went with what I call a radio bar chart. I discovered this through Tone Hong, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, but he's a great consultant that puts a lot of tutorials for custom visualizations, and this is his library. So I would not have been able to do this unless I was comfortable with table calculations and had a step-by-step tutorial. And so with the imdb data set that was curated, I decided on this radial bar chart, and I saw that the labels were going to be extremely important. And I wanted to keep it simple because I frankly wasn't willing to piece together many sheets and align them to do this. I could have kept scrolling, doing a long form chart, but maybe I thought that this was a good telling of modern films.
That sounds good. So just looking at this, let me ask you, what is your favorite movie in the past 20 years?
That's a great conversation starter. I think I was attracted to the Lord of the Rings trilogy because it was obviously an amazing fantasy literature, right? I'd have to pick it as my favorite. And there's tons on here. You have Moulin Rouge, me and my wife's favorite. You have Gladiator on here, which coincidentally, the sequel is about to actually come out in 2024. So going back and watching old movies was great after doing this viz.
I'm with you on Lord of the Rings, for sure. I'm surprised that Avatar didn't do as well as Lord of the Rings, even though it had like the highest box office. The amount of ratings for Avatar is like 1.3 million compared to 1.9 million ratings for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, again, that's a whole separate conversation because it's like what's popular in pop culture, what stands the test of time. I know we're just talking about our favorite movies, but visualizing it helps center your own reference point. So one quick thing I'll mention, the end of radio bar charts is relative to Inception, which is 2010 on my screen. It had the most 2.4 million ratings. So that was the interesting thing in doing this for the first time.
Yeah, the testament of a good data visualization is people are able to read the data, derive their own insights, and have conversations with others. There's always a story somewhere. So you mentioned that the crafting of this radar bar chart is done through a template that Tuan created. We probably don't have to go through the entire tutorial, but maybe highlight some of the key things on how you draw the curves itself.
There's something that recently I think really stuck with me to help people who are new to Tableau. They might be scared of this, and I was scared of this when I was new to Tableau. It seems overwhelming. So the saying that I like is, how do you eat an elephant? You take it one bite at a time. So the table calculation in the marks card, it exists also on the columns and the rows. You'll see there's an X and a Y. What we have is nothing fancy. You have to address, or you have to include all the dimensions. So the people are watching this to learn, like, how do you actually create the lines? You create the paths or something. Tell me, Lewis, how you would characterize them.
The term that people usually use is data densification. So essentially, you have another data set that has 1 through 100, and you match it to a one-to-one relationship to your existing data set. And what that does is, for every row, it replicates 100 points for it, and this allows you to plot across the canvas in general.
That's beautiful. I can't even repeat what you said, but that's exactly right. And in the tutorial, it shows it right here. It's not as scary to replicate 100 or however many hundreds of points. You basically just have a beginning and end point. You are duplicating the value, but this is a simple, and I love it. For me as a learner, this makes me breathe easier. The hard part comes in once you actually create that really simple data model, in knowing how to use table calculations. And that, I just have to emphasize again, is the hard part, because sometimes the order of the dimensions and which ones are check marked. So pivoting back to the path, you'll see it in the path sizes. That's just 1 point, 1 for 1. So you have 270 points in this case. And going back to what I said, if you look at this longest line, that's the 270th mark, right? We're looking at 360 degrees for a circle. That's how this chart is designed. I will say one note on the end result. I had to get a circle and overlay as a reference point, because when you're floating the sheet on the dashboard, it won't stay in proportions. You're getting ovals, you're getting ellipses. And so even when I published it, I know the circles went out of whack, so I had to go into web editing, but I didn't want to eyeball it. So I had my circle reference point. I just want to mention that because I was really happy at the end of the day that this resonated with the community. I honestly didn't know that it would, to the degree it did.
From what I've seen, what gets traction on Tableau Public is either something that you're really passionate about and it oozes out from every inch of your viz. The other one is topical ideas. So it just happens that Oscars was happening around that period of time when you published the viz, and people were looking at all the Academy winners and nominees for the past years and see if they can predict what 2023 winner was. It was a hard toss between Oppenheimer and Barbie, and I actually watched both of them on a recent work trip because I had a very long haul flight. I watched Oppenheimer first. I mean, it's awesome, but that show is so heavy that I had to watch Barbie straight after that just to ease up the mental load on my mind.
It's really funny. You're spot on. Everything you said, what connects with the community, and that last bit with the opposite ends of the Barbenheimer thing. I love both those movies. So yeah, timing is a big part of it. It's a communal thing. You know what? I joke that I'm more of an introvert, but we choose to connect in different ways, and us being able to see what other people do, what type of story they decide on with these community projects. It's encouraging, and you can learn something and celebrate all the different approaches to data viz.
So what's up your plate next? Like, do you have any ideas that is brewing in at the back of your mind, or are you in works of something?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm always on the lookout for, again, doing those personal projects. I think it's a hobby of mine now. After work, I sit down and say, do I want to play this game, or do I want to create a viz? Because there's always some interesting data out there. The New York Times just published the 100 best books of the century. Everybody has their list, but if you take a look, they surveyed novelists and professional writers. It offers an interesting opportunity to see what luminaries in the field think about contemporary fiction, how they ranked, what they say about the first part of the century society. Fiction reflects society. So I'm going a couple levels down with, like, what can I find? What story might be there? Can I create something interesting visually? And I will probably find other inspiration in the community. So that's actually next up on my list.
All right, thanks Josh for spending some time with us this week on Secrets of the Viz. I believe everyone have learned something new on how you can find data sets that you feel really passionate about and create a Viz. Or you can also check out the Viz extensions that's recently released in 2024.2, which are awesome, by the way. I know Josh has created a couple of Vizes using the Viz extension, so hopefully we'll see more of it coming from the community. So thank you everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Well, that was fun. That's why I love GamesNightViz. Just to plug my favorite community project. If I had to pick to play games or watch movies, I'd probably play games.
I love that you said that because you've been one of our most loyal supporters, and it makes us really happy because putting effort to search for data sets and putting out for the community to use and visualize and play around. When we get visitors from the community, it really warms our hearts, which is why we've been doing this for 2 years, probably reaching our third year, I would say. And who gets bored of video games? I've been playing video games since I was like a little boy, right? And I don't reckon that I will stop playing anytime soon, even if I'm like a granddad or something down the line.
I'm glad that my kids connect me back to those memories and they get to experience new versions of the new technology. So I'm glad that you are doing the community project along with the co-leaders, because I think if you're passionate about the data set, you'll get better. I get really good at data visualization if I care about the data set.